ramai, gotong royong bersihkan kawasan kita.
Terlepas dari siaran program-program menarik di RTM, jom saksikan semuanya di RTM Klik.
Prime Minister calls Malaysia Airlines to learn from past mistake. And restriction on pro-Zionist speaker is for security, image of country. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm Brendan Lepol. A good airline company management can provide substantial wages to employees commensurate with their services. As such, Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the Transport Ministry or MOT, Khazanah Nasional Berhad and Malaysia Aviation Group MAG should focus on the management of Malaysia Airlines MAB so that any leaks can be avoided and governance strengthened. Reiterating the ups and downs of Malaysia Airlines, formerly known as MAS, in the 1990s, Datuk Sri Anwar said airline management needs to learn from past mistakes in order to commit in terms of governance, integrity and value.
Sebab itu pentadbiran kita dalam negara madani mesti dan wajib membetulkan. Jadi kepada Amir Faisal dan Khazanah, Tan Sri Wan Zul, saya ucapkan tahniah kerana cuba membawa peralihan dan membetulkan dan menaikkan balik semangat dan keupayaan MAG. Menteri Anthony Loke, Menteri Pengangkutan sekarang, seringkali dalam jemaah menteri, dalam dukungan beliau kepada syarikat penerbangan Malaysia ini, telah memberikan laporan dan menggesa supaya kerajaan terus memberi perhatian dan memberi sokongan. Jadi kepada saudara Anthony Loke saya ucap terima kasih.
Meanwhile, the Premier also expressed hope that the MAB campus and Flight Simulation Centre will not only provide advanced training to foreign airlines, but also strive to improve its expertise and keep up with the rapid development of digital technology and modern innovation. On another note, the Prime Minister said a mediocre scholar should not be brought in as a visiting professor in the first place.
Mediocre scholar should not be brought as a visiting professor in the first place. Okay? The rest, the Minister have already clarified.
He said this in response to the issue involving an American professor, Bruce Gillies' post on X that he left Malaysia due to safety concerns caused by an Islamo-fascist mob whipped up by the government. Meanwhile, Higher Education Minister Dr. Zamri Abdul Qadir said the restriction imposed on visiting professor and speakers who are pro-Zionist must be seen from the aspects of security and the image of the country, which may be affected and tarnished because of their statements. Therefore, he noted that the allegation that the restriction would affect academic freedom should not be raised.
Saya harap mereka yang berkenaan yang membuat komen itu perlu membezakan di antara konteks kebebasan akademik dengan kebebasan yang menyentuh tentang kedudukan negara, imej negara dengan membuat kenyataan yang terlalu biadab dan sangat berbahaya.
Datuk Seri Dr. Zamri said this in response to the statement made by a local professor that University Malaya should not have apologized for inviting the American professor Bruce Gilley, who made controversial and disrespectful statements during his lecture at the university recently. The presence of the pro-Zionist political science professor at the university went viral on X on Wednesday after it was uploaded by the professor himself. However, it received a backlash from Malaysians before the post was deleted by Gilley, who also informed that he had departed. The minister added that even the United States Embassy in Malaysia was not comfortable with the statement issued by the professor and reaffirmed that Malaysia is still a safe country to travel. The country's 5G adoption rate has reached nearly 36% as of mid-April, while the service coverage rate stood at 80.3% in February. Communications Minister Fahmi Fadil said this was a significant achievement considering the low adoption rate of only 12 to 15% in November 2023.
Hadirin yang dikasihi. Jadi dalam tempoh cuma 5-6 bulan kita telah berjaya meningkatkan daripada 15% lebih kurang ke lebih 35%, hampir 36% sekarang. Jadi saya lihat ramai yang memanfaatkan terutama package 5G yang disediakan.
Fahmi said the government is expected to unveil the second 5G network next week, which can bring significant improvement in both service coverage and adoption rates. The minister was met after visiting the Northern Zone Point of Presence (POP) Fibre Optic Network Hub at Padang Besar Perlis. Meanwhile, he said the ministry has held discussions with the Education Ministry to facilitate the provision of cheaper and faster internet in schools nationwide. Over 4,000 schools will serve as the location for POP projects, and it is expected that those in rural areas will benefit from enhanced internet access at lower costs through these projects. And still ahead in our business segment, Laban IBFC reveals robust recovery, remarkable growth. Stay with us. Public Investment Bank Berhad, Public IB, sees the overnight policy rate holding steady at 3% this year after Malaysia's inflation rose 1.8% in March, which modestly deviated from market expectations of a 2% rise. The research house, through a note, said, given the adjustment of the OPR to pre-pandemic levels, they believe that the OPR will hold steady at 3% through 2024. Bank Negara Malaysia underscores that the existing OPR level aligns with a supportive monetary policy stance for the economy, consistent with the current evaluation of inflation and growth prospects. Public IB noted that domestically, adjustments in essential item prices, particularly within the energy and food sectors, could exert upward pressure on inflation, especially in the event of modifications to blanket fuel subsidies. Nevertheless, the short-term ramifications of fuel subsidy rationalization on inflation and growth are contingent upon the magnitude and timing of price adjustments. Malaysia's Producer Price Index, or PPI, which measures the price changes of goods at the producer level, increased by 1.6% in March 2024, compared with 0.3% in February 2024. Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin, in its latest monthly report of the PPI local production, said all sectors registered an increase in March 2024, contributing to the increase of the overall index. He also said PPI local production recorded an increase of 0.4% in the first quarter of 2024, after a decrease of 1.0% in the fourth quarter of 2023. He further said that Malaysian property prices are anticipated to grow significantly in the first half of 2024 due to the challenges of rising costs of building materials. Based on the Real Estate and Housing Developers Association, REHDA's market outlook for 2024. According to REHDA, as of December 2023, the average price of sand and concrete in Malaysia had increased by more than 10% year-on-year. This translated into construction costs that is expected to increase on average by 15% 1% during the first half of 2024. On another note, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair said the country's export prices grew 1.7% to 149.8 points in March, while import prices saw a marginal uptrend of 0.1% from 129.9 points to 130.0 points. Elaborating, he said Malaysia's terms of trade rose by 1.6% month-on-month to 115.2 points due to increases in the index of mineral fuels, animal and vegetable oils and fats, and machinery and transport equipment. In a separate statement, Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Uzair also noted that Malaysia's total trade for March 2024 amounted to 244.5 billion ringgit, with exports and imports recorded at 128.6 billion ringgit and 115.8 billion ringgit, respectively. The Laban International Business and Financial Centre, Laban IBFC Market Report 2023 has revealed the Federal Territory's remarkable growth, which contributed 1.2 billion ringgit to Malaysia's fiscal revenue and surpassed the 1 billion ringgit threshold for the first time. The report showed a palpable resurgence in market activity across key sectors, signalling a robust rebound from the economic challenges inflicted by the COVID-19 pandemic in preceding years. It illuminated a landscape of buoyant optimism, driven by the strategic blueprint outlined in the 5-year Laban IBFC Strategic Roadmap 2022 to 2026. Laban Financial Services Authority Director General Nik Muhammad Din Nik Musa said noteworthy expansions in business volume and a surge in new entrants have been observed, particularly within banking, insurance, captive, trust companies, capital markets, digital financial services and wealth management. Nik Muhammad Din said the financial sector as a whole boasts an impressive roster of 880 approved and licensed institutions, managing a substantial asset volume totaling $83.3 billion. In terms of economic development, Laban IBFC continues to serve as a linchpin, catalyzing growth and prosperity for the Labuan Island community. Star Century Malaysia's homegrown innovative Pluck and Play device aims to provide cybersecurity solutions for local, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, at an affordable price. The device, set to be launched in June this year, was developed by LGMS Berhad and its subsidiary Applied Security Intelligence, or ASI, in collaboration with Dell Technologies, OEM Solutions and Intel Malaysia. LGMS Berhad Executive Chairman Fong Chung Fook said many SMEs are unaware that cybersecurity can affect their businesses until they're attacked by cyber criminals.
Many of these cyber attacks could have easily prevented as long as these organizations know their problem. What are the internal problems? They fix it first before the attack happens. So that's why we are looking for solutions to help people to know in a very early stage what are their problems, what are the security problems, and fix it from the very beginning.
He said some SMEs are at a disadvantage when it comes to cybersecurity due to their tight budgets compared with huge organizations that can invest in cyber defense mechanisms. On the cybersecurity industry's outlook, Fong said the sector is trending positively due to the Cybersecurity Bill 2024 in Parliament and the rising awareness about cybersecurity. Alphabet announced its first ever dividend of 20 cents per share, returning capital when the Google parent spends billions of dollars on data centers to catch up with rivals on generative artificial intelligence. Shares of the company rose nearly 13% in trading after the bell. Alphabet also said it had authorized the repurchase of up to an additional $70 billion of its Class A and Class C shares. It also beat Wall Street's estimates for first quarter revenue, powered by rising demand for its cloud services on the back of increasing adoption of artificial intelligence and steady advertising spending. Revenue was $80.54 billion for the quarter ended 31st March, compared with estimates of $78.59 billion. Meanwhile, Google Cloud revenue grew 28% in the first quarter, boosted by a boom in generative AI tools that rely on cloud services to deliver the technology to customers. Chinese tech giant ByteDance has said it has no plans to sell TikTok after a new US law put it on a deadline to divest from the hugely popular video platform or have it banned in the United States. US lawmakers set the 9-month deadline on national security grounds, alleging that TikTok can be used by the Chinese government for espionage and propaganda as long as it is owned by ByteDance. The Information, a tech-focused US news site, reported that ByteDance was looking at scenarios for selling TikTok without the powerful secret algorithm that recommends videos to its more than 1 billion users around the world. ByteDance denied it was considering a sale, saying the foreign media reports about ByteDance exploring the sale of TikTok are untrue. TikTok has been a political and diplomatic hot potato for years. It has forcefully denied any link to the Chinese government and said it has not and will not share US user data with Beijing. TikTok says it has also spent around $1.5 billion on Project Texas, under which US user data would be stored in the United States. TikTok CEO Zhou Zichu has said the company will take the fight against the new law to the courts, but some experts believe that for the US Supreme Court, national security considerations could outweigh free speech protection. And now we move on to the next segment of our bulletin, On the Table with Otto. Over to you, Otto.
Good evening and welcome back to the show. Malaysia's ambitious effort in its 5G rollout of late came into question due to some disagreement between the players in the industry. Now, we'd like to delve further in the matter, and already standing by via video call to discuss this is Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif of Putra Business School. Now, first of all, thank you very much, Doctor, for coming into the studio and helping us to delve further into this matter. Now, firstly, let's talk about time frame. Why is it at this time consuming, and why is it complicated for Malaysia to actually become a 5G nation, in your opinion?
Thank you for inviting me to give comment. Well, when we look into this 5G adoption by our country, of course, we want the adoption of 5G to run smoothly. But when we come to technology itself, we know this is something that we need to really figure out by ourselves when we want to become among the first. But in the end, what will happen, the adoption of 5G in our country somehow has been hindered or hampered by issues, not necessarily technology-wise, but in terms of governance, in terms of operationalize of the infrastructure as well as the management of the service itself. But nevertheless, when we look into the statistic, now we can see that 35% of all telecommunication users have already subscribed to 5G packages. But what the main concern is that the adoption by the industrial sector and micro, small, medium enterprise need to be accelerated. So when we look into this issue, whether is it becoming a little bit time consuming, or is it because of the complication? It happens when we look into this kind of new technology. But nevertheless, what we have seen and read from the government or from the ministry's statement, that things are now progressing. Eventually, we're going to have the dual networks. We're going to have more announcement to accelerate the adoption of 5G among the enterprise. So things are moving, and we hope that this year we will be able to see faster progress.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that. I'd just like to add this. So when it comes to the infrastructure, you did mention some of the issues could be the infrastructure, the management, and also what you call the collaboration as well when it comes to policies. But it seems that what you have just announced is that it's going to be an exciting time for us when it comes to 5G network. Do you think there's enough infrastructure here in Malaysia to actually accommodate everybody with the 5G network?
Okay, when it comes to 5G networks, with regards to the infrastructure itself, we cannot use the existing infrastructure for 4G, for example, for 5G, because there's a different signal strength or wavelength that require additional investment in the infrastructure itself. And this actually then goes down to the capital expenditure, the cost of setting up additional infrastructure for this, as well as who's going to manage it and how to monetize so that the return of the investment will be acceptable by all parties. So when we look into all this scenario, when we want to accelerate the adoption of 5G, but at the same time we want it to be feasible, we want it to be sustainable and not becoming a white elephant project. So this is where the government have to consider all the possibilities. And when we look into the initial setting up of Digital National Berhad DNB to become the sole network provider and operator, this is something that the government have to decide initially to embark. But of course, given the current scenario, development challenges that the government face, we cannot remain static. We have to adapt. We have to do some intervention. And this is what's happening because feedback from all stakeholders are important to ensure that the project will not face a long delay.
Now, Doctor, you mentioned something about private and public, so we want to ask you this next question. Public versus private funding. Now, Malaysia's 5G endeavour is largely publicly funded with Digital National Berhad, or DNB, taking the lead role. Now, would it be a better decision if we appointed a private entity to actually take on the role?
Well, we have this national agenda, and of course, when talking about getting the private equity to invest in the initial setting up of the infrastructure, I don't think there will be many takers. In fact, when we look into the latest upcoming project, the high-speed rail, Singapore KL, the private sector will only willing to invest if they can see the potential return, preferably in the shortest time. And we're talking about 5G infrastructure, setting up such system or infra will be very high indeed. And that's why government investment or intervention is crucial. But then when it comes to involvement of the public funding, we will still need to make sure we upgrade, we update the existing rules, policy, procedures to make sure that we do not face high or complicated bureaucratic process. And this is the dilemma, maybe the situation where the government has to decide when the public funding start and end, and when the private sector can move in to continue with such investment, but not to jeopardize both party interests. So I can see now is the stage where higher participation by the private funding will start to kick in.
Well, good. Thank you very much for that, Doctor. It seems that we are very ambitious and very excited for the 5G network to actually fully be utilized here in the nation. Now, for the most part, the majority of 5G services in Malaysia are essentially consumer data plans and wireless broadband. Now, the game changer for 5G is in the enterprise sector. So there are unfortunately very few examples of enterprise 5G adoption in Malaysia. Your comments on this?
Yes, this is what the government has highlighted, the fact that the adoption among the enterprise is actually quite low, and they are doing something about it. MITI and MDEC were going to look further into how to encourage the enterprise to adopt it. But it can be done. We have seen during the pandemic and after the pandemic how the businesses has started to focus on upgrading their platform, their infrastructure, their connectivity, their digitalization to ensure that they can survive and take advantage of the current situation in the market. So when we're talking about how to encourage 5G adoption by the enterprise, one factor that need to be considered is the cost of adoption itself. And to ensure that such adoption can run smoothly, perhaps initiatives like helping into financing the cost of adoption or having the right technology platform or product to enable and utilize the 5G benefit is probably necessary. The enterprise probably will not be keen if they are not getting some form of financial support or at least some assistance in setting up towards the adoption of 5G.
Well, that's interesting as well, Doctor, is to see some initiative towards helping out our entrepreneurs as well here in Malaysia. Now, the next question is plans to roll out a second 5G network. Two competing 5G networks seems to be on the horizon as Malaysia is soon to be a dual 5G network as per government policy, said our Digital Minister Gobind Singh Deo today. Now, be that as of May, might be looking at quite some time before Malaysia becomes a 5G player in the region. Your thoughts, Doctor?
Yeah, I think main concern by many parties relating to this offering or this management of operators, and now we are thinking of having a dual network operators, the transparency or the disclosure of the deals and the arrangement, because it's still not clear how we going to ensure that both network provider will be able to complement each other and to become profitable and sustainable. Of course, the concern by the government not to have only one network is to avoid a single point of failure and to make sure there's always a plan B. But we do not want when there are two network provider, only one entity will be getting all the benefit and the other one making the losses. So when we look into this arrangement, the second 5G network, the opportunity to start rolling out the adoption of 5G all over the country, because at the moment the coverage is high among the populated. So this is something that the government probably already looking into this, and what is lacking or probably missing right now is a full transparency and disclosure on how to make this dual network work. But hopefully in the coming weeks we should be able to have more information or details about this arrangement.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for your time on that. And it seems that as a summary, we are looking at a lot of policies, a lot of collaborations, as well as management structures needs to be done as well. So hopefully that in the near future, we can see more of our people, since that it's a very cadring nation when it comes to 5G. We can move forward together in this. Now, once again, thank you very much, Doctor, for your time. And it's been a pleasure. Hopefully that we can meet you soon anytime when it comes to this program as well. So thank you very much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
All right, so with that, we'd like to thank Doctor once again, Dr. Ahmad Razman Abdul Latif of Putra Business School for joining us on the program. And it's back to you.
Thank you, Otto. And that is it on Malaysia Tonight. Together with Otto Othman, I'm Brendan Lepol. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching. You have a great weekend.